Welcome back to the Girl Power Alliance podcast. I am thrilled to introduce this beautiful woman to you today and share her story with you. Let me tell you a little bit about Heather. In 2016, she reached her lowest point when she was looking at a second divorce before the age of 45. She had lost all her appetite for food, survived on meal replacement shakes, lost over 50 pounds, and rededicated her life to Christ. Since then, she has grown a business with nutrition and she's developing her niche in healing people wholly through nutrition. Welcome to the podcast, Heather.
Thank you very much, Michelle.
Well, I know that most people can relate to kind of these on the floor moments, right? I'd love for you to maybe just expand on it just a little bit, kind of like what led up to it and just share a little bit more about that.
Sure. So this happened 5 years ago. And my second marriage, I was actually married to a woman. Um, she kind of came out of nowhere on Mother's Day and told me that she wanted a divorce. So it just threw me for a loop because we hadn't had any issues. Come to find out, she was leaving me for a younger woman, which is exactly what my ex husband did.
Oh my gosh.
And so it like I said, she always kind of kept me up on a pedestal. So like I said, the bubble just burst and totally lost appetite. Like nothing tasted good, nothing looked good. So the meal replacement shakes just really they allowed me to survive. Looking back, it was more like God kind of put me into a fast, and He knew that I
Thank
was
you,
going to
God.
need. So that went on for actually I kind of lost track of time. That went on for at least 2 months, if not longer. I know that at one point, when looking back, that I really should have been hospitalized, but because of the nutrition in these shakes, it wasn't. I didn't need to. So yeah, I was on my own for a year. Had to live by myself for the first time in 20 years and was really scrambling right on how I was going to live my life. I found myself a lot of the times prone on the floor, snotty face, just an absolute wreck. And all I could do was just cry out to God. And it really that's this is what it took for that to happen, because even though I never really felt like I'd left God, I wasn't living the life I was supposed to be living either. So yeah,
Well,
that's
okay. I want to unwind some of this a little bit
sure.
because I think there is a lot more to this discussion than we talked about when we talked about the first time.
Mhm.
So, if you know anything about me, you know that I have a son, a gay son, and I've kind of become an advocate for the LGBT community in like as a Christian for the LGBT
Mhm.
community.
Yes.
And it is a very hot, spicy, polarizing topic that I get massive amounts of hate for.
Sure,
And
sure.
I only go put myself out there, like I'll do it and then I won't talk about it at all for a couple months to let the like heat die down, and then I'll do it again. And so I want to ask you about, so you were married to a man first and
Yeah.
then got divorced a number of years later and married a woman. Do you identify as a lesbian? Do you feel comfortable unpacking that a little bit?
Sure, sure. I actually didn't label myself at all because I don't believe in labels.
I love
Um,
that.
I just felt like I was a spirit that was loving another spirit. And it just so happens that spirit was encased in a female body. So that's just really how I looked at it. Like I can remember she asked me the same thing, and I'm like, why do I have to be labeled? Why do I have to be whatever society says I am? I am who I say I am, right?
Yeah.
So um, it was interesting because I'll say before that, let me preface this with the fact that I really felt like God had me walk this path because of how I was raised. And I was raised in a very religious environment, very strict. You didn't mix races. If you were gay,
Oh
you
my
were going to
gosh. Wow.
hell. Yeah. So that's how I was raised. And so a part of me was really kind of a bigot towards that. And I can
Wow.
remember, because I was friends with her beforehand, and I can
Okay.
remember her asking me, "Well, what do you think about that?" And I'm like, "Well, you really don't want to know my opinion on that. So you might want to just not want to talk about it, right?" And then I wind up being married to her.
That's
But when
that's
it's
quite a
done,
turn, Heather.
do what?
That's quite a turn.
It is quite a turn. It is quite a turn. God did a lot of work in me. But through living that lifestyle, I really learned what it meant to love someone else and to love people the way Christ did. Because if I'd not walked that path, I wouldn't know how to love people, let alone myself. Right. So it's really allowed me to understand that all I'm here to do is love other people and not judge them for what they do or what life they live or who they are.
The Christian kind of community in general has really taken the up arms over this particular subject in a lot of ways, and I mean, uh, there is a part of me that understands, and I've kind of swung the pendulum myself. I was never, I wouldn't say that I was a bigot or anything, but I would say I never really actually had an opinion. I didn't
Mhm.
have an opinion personally that wasn't given to me by what the church said, right?
Right.
And I'm talking about big C church. And I never, I was in the beauty business, so I was around all kinds of gay guys, especially, and never had a problem with them. But I never actually just thought about it. And that sounds probably terrible and shallow, but that's the truth. And it wasn't until my son came out that I really wanted to know what I thought about it. And I, even more than that, I really wanted to know, what did the Bible say about it? What did God say? What did
Mhm.
Jesus say about it? And
Right.
so through that incredible journey that I've had, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And even Jesus said, I did not come to judge if you do not obey what I say. He said, I came to love you and to show you a new way. There is a judge, but he even said it isn't even him. And so if that's what Jesus said, what does that mean for us? What does that mean
Mhm.
for us as we walk out this life as Christians? And sadly, the Christian community has done so much damage to the LGBT community that
Yes.
even people that want desperately to have that relationship with Christ, they're stuck because they're not allowed to say that within their LGBT community that they're Christians, right?
Mhm.
And then they're
Right.
certainly not allowed to be around Christians saying that they're Christians that love Jesus. So they're stuck in this place. And obviously because God gave me a son who is gay, it's become something that's I'm really passionate about. And so
Mhm.
to hear your perspective and to hear you say that, I just want to affirm and confirm that I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Oh, you're giving me chills. I've got chills running up and down my arms over here.
I mean,
Thank you.
there's like so much going on in the world, right? Like there's so many things
Mhm.
that are going on in the world that this issue seems like, really, are we still talking about this? Like there's
Yeah.
so many other things, it seems to me. It seems so small to me, but you would be amazed at the amount of parents that I talk to, primarily moms. Dads don't really reach out, but and that are saying my son, my daughter is, they think they're gay, which is what I said about my son Jacob for the longest time, probably for 2 years. He thinks he's gay because
Mhm.
you even can't utter the words out of your mouth. He couldn't even utter the words. And when I would talk to other people, that's how I said it. It was almost like a a dismissive kind of attitude, not on purpose.
Right.
But that's how I could say it.
Mhm.
He thinks he's gay, and I mean, we've come a long way since then. That was 10 years ago, but there's so many things going on in the world that, and the world so desperately needs to be unified. We need love. We need
Mhm.
acceptance, and it seems like of all the things that we're gonna really pin down as believers, couldn't it be something else? I just feel like there's so many
Right.
other things. Like, let's leave this one alone. You have human beings that I
Mhm.
personally believe that you are born that way. Like I couldn't just be told that my attraction to the opposite sex is I'm not allowed to have it and I need to be attracted to the same. That couldn't just happen, right?
Right.
Not to say that that's what you're experiencing, but I'm just speaking about kind of my experience with my son. Like I, you know, so I'm so glad that you are so open and talking about this. And, we will get back to the nutrition and everything, I
Oh, it's
promise.
not a problem. Not a
But
problem.
I feel that this is a message that's important for people to hear. I mean, here you have this truly incredible experience. Did you and her get divorced then?
No. As a matter of fact, um, a year later, we still were not divorced, and I find out that she's in the hospital, and she had been in there for a week. Now we worked for the same company,
Okay.
so the district office called me and said, "Look, I think you need to get to the hospital. You know, she's in ICU."
Oh.
And that's when I found out that she had cancer,
Oh.
and she had found out. I want to say like a couple of days before she was rushed to the hospital for because
Oh
she stopped
no.
breathing.
Oh.
Yeah, and so when I got there, she was intubated, and so she couldn't talk to me, but I could see that she was very happy to see me. Um, and so I got to spend
Mm.
that last week with her.
Mm.
Yeah, she really was a beautiful spirit. She really was, and I know that she still loved me. Um, and I can proudly say that I was able to bring in my choir director of all people, um, brought him in, and she gave her life to Christ
Praise God.
and and passed away 24 hours later.
Mm.
Yeah, but to have that last week with her just means more to me than anything else. And I
Wow.
do miss her because, like I said, she was just beautiful to be around. She was always happy. She would do anything for anybody to the point that people would take advantage of her. And she was she was 6'3",
What?
and yes, and she was just like this big teddy bear. But yeah,
Wow, I'm
so
sorry for your loss. I'm so
oh, thank
sorry.
you. Like I
So
said,
you are 4 years out from that, 5 years out from that now?
it'll be 4 years this July when she passed.
And looking back now
Mhm.
at that whole experience from, starting with literally kind of a bigotry mindset to falling in love and getting married to a woman and all the things that probably happened from there to that journey where you sit now. What are you like, what are your big takeaways? Where are you different? What did God do in this process?
He Well, like I mentioned before, I really know what it is to love people now. But I also know what it is to love myself
Mm.
also in that process. Um, I I understand how fragile life is,
Mm.
and to never leave a family member or a friend without letting them know every time how I feel about them.
Mm. Yes.
And there's been times where my husband now and we've had arguments. He'll go out the door, and I'm like, "Don't you leave without telling me, say, without saying goodbye." I'm like, "You just don't do that, right?" So that has really impacted me for sure, because she was so close to me. But again, my biggest takeaway is just my job is just to love other people.
So you're
That's it.
remarried.
I'm sorry.
You're remarried.
I'm remarried.
When did you get
Yeah.
remarried?
It'll be 2 years ago in September.
Well, congratulations on that. You're
Thank
you're
you.
just past the newlywed stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you find, before we get like actually back on track, did you find that the people in your life, your family members, maybe your church, how did they respond to you being married to her?
Um, They did not like it, especially my family. So one of the things that I went through, I was with her for 8 or 9 years total. And for those first, gosh, I've lost track of time, but I'm going to say for probably the first couple of years at least, anyway. Um, I would have my mom telling me how awful it was that my husband left me, and if he, oh my gosh, I think I just lost you.
I'm here.
Oh, sorry, my screen just went blank.
Oh.
Um, so I would have my mom telling me for the first couple of years, oh, it's awful that Bo left you, and if he hadn't have done that, then you wouldn't be in the situation you're in now, and it's only because he hurt you that you've gone to a woman. And then on the other side of that, I had my dad telling me every week that I was going to hell.
Mm.
Um, my brother didn't really say anything. My sister has always been more supportive than anybody else in my life. I can remember going up to visit family in Pennsylvania, and Robbie would say, "Oh, they're so nice." I'm like, "Yeah, they're nice, honey, but they don't approve. Don't mistake that for approval." She's like, "What?" She was so naive in that way. But yeah, no, nobody liked it. Nobody liked it, and I wasn't really going to church at the time. So when I would go to church and she was with me, we would get those looks, but nobody would say anything.
Well, that's good. That's good. Well, what a journey that you have been on, and um, I, God, I love that He is the God of restoration and
Hmm.
rebuilding. And it sounds like all of the things that you have walked through have helped you to basically rebuild a new life. And what the enemy tried to take from you, God has given you so much more.
That is definitely true. Definitely true. I can say that when Jamie came into my life, one of the things I was really worried about was, okay, am I going to find someone else, and how are they going to feel about me being married to a woman? Like, what are they going to feel about that? Like, these were fears that I had.
Yeah.
But then I just had to kind of relax and say, well, whoever it is, it's going to be because God sent them. It's not because I was out looking for them, and they're going to be perfect. And that's
Yeah.
what's happened. When I told Jamie that I was married to a woman, and he says, "Okay, my brother's gay," so like he did not even care, which
Wow.
is amazing,
Yeah,
actually.
that's awesome. I don't know if I ever asked you, what was your so are full time in the nutrition coaching business now?
I am now. Yes,
And what was your job before your career?
I was a pharmacy technician.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Again, like major extremes from like the sickness business to the health business,
Yes.
which I think gives you a tremendous perspective because, you're watching people come in day after day for these medications that oftentimes cause more harm than good.
Exactly.
Not to say that there isn't a reason for allopathic medicine, there is,
Right.
but we have learned to switch out the naturopathic remedies and cures through nutrition for allopathic band-aids.
Exactly.
So you survived on these shakes. You basically like lose the person that you love. She dies, and
Mhm.
you restore your health and think, I'm leaving this. How did that kind of happen?
Well, it took probably another 2 years before I actually left the company I was with. I worked for a huge company, and one of the things that I did was I would travel to other stores for the district. I would train. I would help them with their reports, help them with outdates, just whatever they needed me to do. Right. but I was traveling where one way I was going north at least an hour, and then the other way I was going south for almost 3. So
Mm.
I was all over the place. Um, and then they took my position away, but I was already doing what I'm doing now part time. I was already heavily involved with church. I was in the choir. I would help with the community services that they had. I would help with the 60 and better group and go out on adventures with them. So my life was pretty much set because the job that I had was Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. So when they threw me back into a store, they kind of expected me to be able to be available whenever they needed me. And I said, well, that's not going to happen. I have another business. I have church. I have other commitments. This is when you get me. And yeah, they knocked me from 40 hours a week down to 13 because
Oh,
I would not accommodate their schedule.
wow.
So I did that for probably a couple of months. It got the stress around that got to be where I was actually before I would even go into work, I was crying before every shift.
Oh,
And I only worked barely 2 shifts a week. And I knew it was something that no longer aligned with who I was. But it was like God had to bring me to that extreme pain point
yep.
before I knew what it was to actually step out on faith. I was a person that was had to be absolutely sure that this was the decision that I was supposed to make. And well, I guess crying before every shift kind of let me know that this is the decision I need to make.
Isn't it funny how we like that? Like I like to, again when I'm talking with people, I kind of say, listen, God will, I believe, allow us to get to the place in our life of such discomfort that we are forced into a decision that we probably should have made a long time ago, but
Yeah.
wasn't uncomfortable enough. And so
Hmm.
we get to this point where you legitimately cannot stay in the same scenario. So you are forced into a new decision.
Yeah.
And so that sounds exactly what he did.
Yes, that is exactly what he did.
And how
It
long has
was
it been now that you've been full time?
full time. It was, oh my gosh, 3 years in March.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
I still have my struggles, but I'm happy.
that's awesome. So will you share with anybody that is listening or watching, like what programs do you offer? Do you have like one-to-one coaching? Do you have group coaching? What are the programs that you offer?
I definitely do one-to-one coaching. That's pretty much where I do my best. Is definitely one-on-one, and that's actually what I prefer because then they have my whole attention, and I can really dig down into what their goals are, what their obstacles may be. I like diving into with individuals who may have like diabetes or heart issues. I'm interested in filling that gap of care between what the doctor's telling them to do and given a list, say here and they don't really know what they're doing.
Right.
So that gap right there is where I like to work for sure.
I'm sad to say that that is a large niche.
Yeah.
I mean, sadly
It
it
is.
is, and it's a very needed one. So, tell anybody that's listening how they can contact you, website, social media, how can they connect with you?
Sure, absolutely. So they can personally connect with me on Facebook a couple of different ways. Heather Pyle Sherman is my personal page. And then also at Be the Energy. That's my business page, Be Energy Nutrition. You can also find me on Instagram, which is at Be the underscore energy. So I try to keep that all lined up. And as for my website, what I have is actually a retail website. So that would be energy.goherbalife.com is where they
Perfect.
can find that.
And we'll have all of those links in the show notes if you're listening to the podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then all the information will be right below the video in the description box. And I'm just, I want to just tell you, thank you for your transparency. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are impacting lives and that through this podcast and your transparency, you will impact more lives. I don't know if what we talked about today is something that you discuss normally, like in a public forum. Is that the first time you've ever done that?
No, it
Oh,
is
good.
not. I'm very, very open about it. I have no regrets on my life. I've walked what I was supposed to walk for a reason, and I've embraced it all, and I'm not ashamed.
I think it's beautiful, and I'm honored to have shared your story on the podcast. And I just want to say, keep doing exactly what you're doing, leaning into, the direction that God takes you. I know you're blessing people. If you are one of the people that is in that niche that I said was large, I'm sad for you, but I'm very happy that you have somebody like Heather to connect with that can literally help take you out of that. I mean, literally, those things can be reversed through nutrition, through the proper nutrition. So, connect with her today so that she can help you have a massive transformation. Um, Really, that it'll start. You'll think it'll be about your health, but it'll be about so many other things. So,
Right.
again, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today, and I'm so excited to just keep up with you and see what else God has next for you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.